beautiful morning to be out on this motorcycle. This is the classic looking, modern Triumph T120, the Bonneville, the famous line of Triumph Bonnevilles. I've been wanting to get my hands on one for some time, and I finally got the chance. Now what we're looking here is a modern take on a classic, a well-known, well-loved Bonneville line that dates back, at least so far as I know, to 1969, maybe even beyond that. I didn't look at the complete history, but I can tell you that it matches that of some older designs. It's not carbureted, although this looks like a carburetor. It isn't. It is a modern motorcycle in every respect with fuel injection. ABS and traction control. It's got dual disc Brembo brakes in the front, a single in the back. These mirrors stock allow the profile to be a bit smaller, more narrow for lane filtering if you have lane filtering in your state or in your country. I just love this machine. I love it for what it is, and I love it for what it isn't. This may just be the best commuter bike on the market today. That of the T100 or the T120, depending on your needs for freeway speed or if you're simply going on country lanes. Or maybe even a Speedmaster or a Speed Twin. Any part of the Bonneville line more or less can apply. If you're doing touring or highway speeds, I would recommend the accessory windscreen. Thinking at first when I rode this bike on the freeway that I would struggle with it, I would be blown off the road, and yet I wasn't. The bike is very planted, its weight is very low down, and while at the same time, it makes it a little bit more challenging in some of the corners. Also because of the positioning of the feet, having mid controls, I found myself wanting to ride this more in a gentlemanly way, but yet the bike is very capable of much more than that. So I want to couch those words very carefully, because I could easily stand here and say, well, this is an entry-level bike. This is a good beginner bike. And that would be true, and yet that's really not giving it its due at the same time. Now, I'm not trying to sell the concept of this machine, because if you're watching the video, you have some interest in either the looks or maybe the performance. Maybe you're considering purchasing this bike. Maybe you're considering whether or not to go to a trike. Or maybe go down to something like this, a lighter weight bike, a little more nimble, low to the ground, easy to control. I did find that the low beams were a little inadequate and the high beams were satisfactory to me. I would like to have LED, even though the halogen fits with the yellowish color tone of the classic looking bikes. I just would prefer to have a little bit brighter view. The way that I sit on the bike, I find myself pointing my toe toward the ground when changing gears, and when going through a corner and dipping a little bit low, I did scrape my boot one time on the toe. That was just one thing that I noticed that I would have to be cognizant of. The clutch is very light on the bike. The dials are beautiful. It has a tachometer, speedometer, really anything that you need in a classic bike, this has, and then some. I'm gonna take it on the road and we'll show you how it feels to ride one.
All right, so hopefully we'll get some audio out of this. I've tried and messed up my microphones and didn't plug in my cables, had a bad mic, and all I'm trying to do is basically say what a cool machine this happens to be. Triumph Bonneville T120. I try to do these things standing beside the motorcycle to tell you a little bit about it, so I have all my ducks in a row, but I find I can't even think as clearly until I'm behind the handlebar, and I could tell you a little bit more about how she rides. These are really beautiful motorcycles. It's just hard to ignore that fact. Maybe you can add some things. Do you have a Triumph? Do you have a T120? Comment in the description below. I'd love to hear what you think. Long-term owners, if you have a review, post whatever you got. I'd like to hear what you think. I think this may be one of the best motorcycles for commuting out there. And with some accessories, saddlebag, windscreen, and a different seat, I'd be willing to tour on this bike. I would not be afraid of it.